Get Messy. I'm your host, Maddie, and today I get to sit down with the incredibly multifaceted Taylor Meskimen, an actress, narrator, musician, and newly minted writer. Taylor opens up about what it's like to juggle multiple creative lanes at once, from taking guitar lessons and writing a feature film with her best friend to building a voiceover career and staying focused enough to keep growing in each area. We talk about the challenge of splitting your energy across different passions and the moments when it all just clicks, like when she booked her first TV role in 911, a milestone that totally validated her years of work and dedication. She shares stories from the world of audiobooks and voiceover, the importance of putting yourself out there even when it feels super uncomfortable, and how community can make all the difference when you're carving your own path in a tough industry. We also dig into what it was like growing up in a family of creatives and the gritty recommitment required to keep chasing your artistic goals. This conversation is honest, inspiring, and packed with real talk about balancing big dreams, trusting your talent, and staying grounded while navigating a career that never fits into just one lane. Without further ado, please welcome the wildly talented Taylor Meskimen. So happy you're here, Taylor. I so appreciate you coming onto the pod. And to kick us off, can you give us spark notes of who you are, what you do, any important tidbits that will be helpful for people listening?
Sure. Yeah. I'm Taylor Meskimen. I'm an actress. I'm a narrator. I am a musician. I really call myself an artist because maybe we'll dive into that in this interview. I love all the arts. I appreciate all the arts, and it's always been a struggle to just do one for me. So I'm recently a writer as well.
Amazing. I'm so excited to chat with you about all of that, Taylor, because I feel very, and not in a bad way, but like very one-dimensional and like what my strengths are. I'm like, I'm very good at these couple things when it comes to artistry. And then there's other things I'm like, I'm amazed when people are so multifaceted. And like you said, you're an actor, you do voiceovers, you narrate audiobooks, you sing and perform, you make visual art, you've done theater. What space does each of these art forms take up in your life? Like on a normal week, how much are you tapping into each of these areas?
It changes depending on the week, but I feel like I get busy with working and the things that are giving me financial support to continue following all my dreams. So narrating takes up a lot of my time, I would say, and doing voiceover auditions and jobs and whatever comes in. Voiceover has been the main way that I've supported myself as an artist, which I'm incredibly grateful for. And I know we've talked about that before, and even listening to your podcast and hearing you talk to other voiceover actors, I feel a lot of understanding and reality on those. It's a great gig, honestly.
It's a great gig. We're going to talk a lot about voiceover because, yeah. And what's interesting too is I feel like, to your point, I came to LA primarily focusing on theatrical acting. And then you do commercials and you do anything else that gets thrown your way. And I feel like so many people have that experience of, I was really into theater, or I was really trying to break out as, a theatrical actress. And then voiceover happened to me, and it's been so great ever since. And like you said, the demands of it are so different from the other types of art forms. And I feel like voiceover, because we don't have to memorize a script, like everything's just so fast paced. So like, to your point, we get swept up in the wave of like the urgent needs of like, you're booked tomorrow, you have this audition. So like, that's kind of where the focus creatively will go in those seasons for sure.
Totally. But to answer your question also, like I try to implement, because also being freelance, you make your own schedule as well, besides being pulled for those things that people are asking you for last minute. But also, we kind of make our own schedules, really. So I try to implement those things. Like I've been doing guitar lessons this year, and like even putting that in every day a little bit, or spending time on the areas, because I do believe also that if I want to get results in those areas and work more as an actor, or have more opportunity as a musician, or get the songs done that I want to get finished, then I have to spend time. Whatever I put my energy towards is what's going to end up with some results. So I think that's the challenge, though, is the challenge of even being interested in so many different art forms then becomes, oh, it's so great. But then also, how do I do all this? And how do I do it well also, where it's not just like, I think that's what I've been focusing a lot on this year because it's true, even like as I've grown up, less learning things because I'm kind of like, oh, this is what I do. And I've discovered who I am and what I like. But there's actually so many more things that I want to learn how to do and want to be better at. I've kind of stepped back a little. Like I used to be a little bit more spread thin and kind of a dabbler maybe, and then I realized like, "Oh, I don't wanna be a dabbler," like
But I know what you mean. You're like, yeah, a little bit over here and a little bit here. You're like, I want to go deeper
yeah,
into a couple of these things for sure.
yeah, and, like, be really good at something, like I feel like voiceover ended up being where it feels good to be competent at something, and because I've been doing voiceover for so long, I have become really competent at it, and I do feel confident I can get work as a voiceover actor, no problem. I'm busy. My statistics show that I have credits in the area. It's been proven, it's agreed. But there's so many other areas that even though maybe I've been kind of like dabbling in the area for a long time, I don't feel the confidence and I want to feel the confidence, but that takes like putting my attention on it, practicing, putting my time into it. And I think that's a really beautiful thing to do. And I admire artists who are very competent. So I think artists like that have inspired me. You've inspired me by all the work you do as well. Like I get very inspired by other people that I'm a fan of too, to work harder at the craft.
And I think it's such an interesting point that you bring up, Taylor, because I think we have the benefit of creating our own schedule. And then that also, it could be a curse when you don't know how to structure it. You and I met in our 20s. Like, it's like funny, maybe not dabbling as much as you, but like I was producing projects with my one friend, Corinne, acting, writing. So it's like a little bit of things being spread out. And like you said, you're kind of like, you're moving the needle in all those areas. But what I've noticed too in regards to competency for voiceover, it was true. It's like the second I started getting validation in that area, even when I would introduce myself to people, that's what I would start with because it was the easiest to explain. I had the most tangible results there. I felt the most confident and competent because I was doing the most work and the most practice. So much more attention was going there. And I think now there's been so many things that I think maybe it's age and like understanding energy levels better to be like, okay, for this season of life, what's the focus? Like voiceovers humming along, but then these other things that I want to like deepen my wealth of knowledge or deepen like that confidence. Like, how do I then structure my time to like actualize that?
This year, I've been really fine tuning that for myself. And honestly, it's actually really paid off. Like, of course, I'm not perfect. And sometimes I make a choice and I'm like, that was the wrong choice. Okay, like, great. Well, I'll do a different schedule next time or something. But it has allowed me to get things done that had been on, I don't know, I'm like very much into making goals lists. And I usually do them like maybe at the end of the year or even on my birthday, like things that I want to accomplish. And I feel like I've actually been able to check some things off the list this year, which makes me feel good. And,
Yeah.
gotta encourage that.
What were some of the things you feel like you were able to check off this year?
One of them was my best friend and I are writing a feature film together right now, which is one of the projects that I'm working on. I can't really say too much about the story and everything, but it's my first time writing a feature. She's written a couple scripts, and her and I just have worked together in other capacities. We used to throw music events together.
Treehouse.
Yes.
I know those events. They were so fun. I miss going to them in LA. My brother and I still talk because I brought him with me
Oh,
once and
that's
he was like,
right.
we had so much fun. That like those events were spectacular.
Thank you. Yeah, we love them. Alexandra Du Parc, my best friend, started it in 2015, and then we did it monthly and carried it on. And pandemic times kind of slowed it down. And then life switching gears a little bit. She's primarily doing a lot of writing now, but it was cool for us to come up with another project to work on together because we work really well together and love creating together. And I think also being an actor, which you probably understand too, sometimes can feel like so much waiting for opportunity. And I've always loved writing, honestly, but it's really cool to work on something that feels bigger than just getting a little acting job, and realizing I think that I'm more even like I love acting, and honestly that is my number one passion, but that there's ways that I can be a little more in control and actually what I want to do. And like, I love storytelling. This is why I love acting. I love storytelling. I love film, the medium of film, and being a filmmaker. And writing is like the source point of so much creation. And it's such a beautiful art form. So learning that and learning how to write a script, which is like all been very humbling, not easy. Also, not, it's like a long form thing versus I'm mostly trained in improv and quick. And that's kind of how I live my life is everything's very quick. Ideas are quick, then they're done, moving on to the next. But this is like, we've been working on this all year, keeping interest in a project, and we love it. We're like obsessed with the story and the characters. So that's been really fun.
I'm so excited for you. The way you just described it is exactly how I feel about writing. I've taken so many different writing classes and I've written scripts before, and I feel like writing made me a better actor because I think I was able to understand storytelling in such a deeper way than I did just as an actor. And I think it made me appreciate story in a whole new way. And to your point, I also feel like part of what made me a better creative is because I felt so fulfilled in bringing that story to life and then deciding, okay, like, are we going to try to sell it or make it? Or like, there's so much potential and possibility that, like you said, you have more control over than we know as an actor. Cause with, I feel like when you get into the mode and we've all been there where you're like, I'm working so hard, but I feel like I'm just waiting for any opportunity. I feel like it could be a creativity killer because you're just like coming from a place of scarcity. Or I've had so many times before where I'm like, I'm nervous then because I don't want to like waste this one opportunity where when I was writing or producing work, it was almost like, oh, that thing happened, cool. But I'm like so obsessed with this other thing. There was way more like flexibility and
Yeah.
fluidity too.
It brings a way better energy too, which I feel like leads to more bookings. And because all these things can be perceived by one another. Like, yeah, if I feel like I need this job or, I need it, like I'm desperate for it, I feel like I won't get it because it's like a weird energy. And when you're creating on other things, it almost feels like, oh, well, I'm doing what I want to be doing in my life. I'm making films, I'm creating things, which is ultimately what I want to be doing. And of course, it's great. We need to get paid for our services, and like that is part of it as well. But it's not why we do anything. And I feel like that inner purpose is so much more important. We have to juggle it, but it's a funny balance. It's definitely a funny balance. But yeah, I feel like I just had that experience too with some other friends. We decided to do like make a film in 24 hours kind of thing, just
So fun.
for fun. But it's great to just make things and feel like there isn't a scarcity and just do the things that you want to do and not let things come in the way. And obviously, it's like that's easier said than done. I realize like barriers exist and money and time and schedules, and there's so many different things. And it's hard to pull these things together, but it's so fulfilling. And I think this year I've just kind of more focused on actually getting those things done because I'm like, well, this is my life. If there's something I'm not happy about in it, then it's for me to change. And what's the difference between if I see other people making things, it often inspires me to do the same. And I think the only times that I get hard on myself are when then I don't do it. So if I just do it is like, that's like the only difference is doing it or not doing it and figuring out a way to do it, even if it feels very challenging. But at the end of the day, It's my own life and my own happiness. And we figure out how to do all kinds of things that if we really want to, we figure it out somehow, like figure out how to do that trip or, go to that thing. Or so kind of applying that to my own career goals as well.
Yeah, I love that, Taylor, and it's funny, I just got to interview your dad, Jim Meskimen, and I'm thinking there's, like, certain things that I'm remembering from my conversation with him, and you come from a very creative family. Your dad's an actor, and not just an actor, he's also very multifaceted in his creativity. Your mom owns the acting center in LA, an esteemed acting school. Coming from a family where everyone is also in the game and just, experiencing what you're describing, what are some of the best nuggets of advice that you've received from your parents? Your grandmother was also an actor, you've kept with you throughout your career?
The first thing that comes to mind, I guess, is yeah, my grandmother. I mean, I feel very lucky with the family that I was raised in because I'm a third generation artist. So there was a lot of support there, which I know not everybody gets, and a lot of understanding also. Even just that, like my parents understood me, my grandparents understood me, and why I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And like my grandmother, she was told by her mother even, so this was like passed on to her, which then got passed on to me, was just that you can do anything, which is a beautiful thing to pass on, I think. And it can sound a little bit like, like you can do anything, like Delulu or like, I don't know, like airy fairy or something. But I think that just as like a base, like to have that in my heart, like that encouragement also from somebody who was successful and not necessarily in the traditional path that someone would be successful. Like my grandmother, she is Mrs. C on the TV series Happy Days, which was a very popular show back in the 70s and 80s. So a lot of our generation don't even know it, but she was just like a working actress for many, many years and supporting her two kids, single mom, working hard, stressful life. And she didn't book Happy Days until she was like in her 40s. She didn't go about it in the same way that, I mean, everyone has a different journey, but she persisted a lot. And, you never know how it's going to happen. But I think that always stuck with me because just having that belief is really helpful, I think. And then also, I guess, I mean, from my dad, I've learned a lot about promotion, which is other very gold, I think.
I was going to bring it up, Taylor, because that was, as he was talking about that, that's really stuck with me. I voice memoed my friend right after I talked to your dad. And I was like, wow, because I think I experienced post COVID almost this like, I don't know if it was like a fear of being heard or being seen, but like a desire to be heard and be seen. I kind of stopped sharing or really went into like questioning what I was sharing and why I was sharing it. And just that the fluidity I felt before COVID, I didn't have anymore. And at the same time, I was like, I know this is important. Like, I know that sharing and receiving feedback and meeting people through like the creativity you share or the creativity I see other people doing that inspires me. Like, there's so much power in that. And that was a huge golden nugget I took away from your dad. I was like, wow, we need to be a lot more courageous with expressing ourselves and promoting. And like, otherwise, people won't even know that it exists. If we don't talk about it, no one will even know.
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole point why we make stuff, is to share it with people.
No, I mean, and that's the thing too, is I think if I look at the people I admire on social media, like I love what they share. I'm like, yes, please more. Like it makes me feel again inspired or motivated from what they're sharing. I'm never thinking, oh, they're so egotistical or oh, they're, I'm not judging them at all. So that was a huge golden nugget from your dad. And he talked about ways in which he shares, his content and his creativity all the time. And then also, I feel like he reaches out to people a lot. He's like, whether it's like asking someone for coffee or just like reminding people that like I want to be connected to them and just saying hi and just asking what they're up to. Just like there's so much movement. Like I don't think your dad waits for anybody to gift him an opportunity.
He definitely does not. And it's really valuable. And I talk to my artist friends about it all the time because I think there's so many talented people out there. And I think probably the biggest thing that differs, like you said, you can be very talented, but if no one sees it, then no one will know. But it's almost like going against like this idea in society that you shouldn't talk about yourself. We don't want to be egotistical. We don't want to be self-centered, but it's not that. It's sharing. You have to have that part of it. So I'm very grateful for learning that lesson and learning it over and over again, because I think it kind of has to be, for me at least, it's been like a constant reminder that it's okay to share what I'm doing or make something. And I think I've gotten way less out of my head about it and not so significant, and obviously want to make and share good art that I am proud of and that I like, but just not self-criticizing so much to where then it doesn't go anywhere or
Right.
yeah.
It's funny how we could be our own biggest obstacles sometimes. Like that was something when I was just describing that like fear of being seen and heard, I was, kind of trying to like zoom out for myself. And I was like, I am my own obstacle with this right now. Like no one said anything to me. No one is like sitting there, judging me or making me. I'm like, this is all here. And I need to like work through, like you said, it's a constant progress and process of like that's its own unique muscle. Cause I always talk to artists too, where it's like there's creativity and being really good at your craft. And then like this is also a business. And I think sometimes battling and holding space for both of those things. I've seen a lot of people almost focus too much on the business side where they're like neglecting their craft, or vice versa. People who are afraid of maybe what the business side will require of them. So they're like, again, brilliant artists, but like no one knows. Maybe only the people in your acting class know because they're rejecting the self promotion or like the strategy maybe that's sometimes needed to make this a professional career.
Totally. It's so funny. I just makes me think because I feel like sometimes this world is so opposite. Like there's a lot of like conflicting information. And I remember when I was a teenager and I had all these friends who were in bands and I was kind of like in the music scene, and my friends in their bands were like, don't be a sellout. Like, oh, that band sold out and they got famous. And I'm like, wait, it's like this idea that you don't get famous. It's better if like a niche crowd of people. But then I'm like, yeah, but nobody can survive like that. Like that band being successful is good for everybody. But this like idea that's been ingrained into society, like don't be successful.
Like, yeah, almost if like, yeah, if you're not successful at that level, you're more of an artist, or like your creativity is more potent and better, quote unquote.
You blow up in your, yeah, but it's not really true. I'm like, what is that? Has nothing to do with anything. In fact, if a person is blowing up and being successful, then that means they're probably pretty good at what they do. A lot of people like them. It's so
It
funny.
is. I feel like we're constantly having to deconstruct all of the things and the stories that we're constantly being told. And I want to talk about, because there's so many like juicy creative things I want to talk to you about in the specific lanes of creativity that you do. You just booked an episode of 911. And can you take us through what the auditioning process was like and through filming? And then what did it feel like when you saw it and you got to watch it back once it was all put together?
Definitely. So this was a real lucky situation and very unique situation, I think. I've been acting a long time. This was actually my first official TV show job.
Wow.
Yeah, which has been on the list for a really long time. It was great. So I actually did not audition for this role, which is also crazy. It's funny because I feel like I'm like very much into positive energy and like being responsible for my own life. I had been really looking at my career and this goal in particular, actually, because I've been trying to get it accomplished for a really long time, get booked on a TV show. I've done tons of auditions. I've been doing acting since I was a teenager, and it just wasn't cracking. And, I was like, I'm just going to keep plugging along. Like I said, started making my own things. I've done like short films and little parts in other people's films. And like I have networking things that I've gotten, and just like I'm always creating stuff. But I was like really re-looking at this goal. Like, do I want to go about being an actor in this way through Hollywood? doing the audition thing, the getting on a TV show, getting, a recurring, and you kind of go up the ladder, I guess. And I kind of redecided that, yes, I did want to play the game still, despite the zero wins. And because you also don't hear anything, right? So it's like throwing things out into the void, like, I'm here. Okay. Like, no acknowledgement that anyone has seen it. You're good. Nothing. It's like, I think that's the hardest part about being an actor is that aspect where it's kind of nice though, because like I also have learned I don't crave a lot of acknowledgement because I don't get it. So I'm just okay with not hearing anything back on a performance that I have done.
And I'm curious too, Taylor, because I want you to continue the story because I'm very curious, but I'm curious too because you and I met at DPN, our voiceover agency, and we were lucky, I think, to have the experience we did where DPN, I didn't realize it at the time, was like a little more old school where we would be going in to their office to audition. So like we'd go sit in the lobby, we'd get handed this pile of scripts, and they'd be like, Taylor, McDonald's, go see Kim's booth. And then you would go just get to focus on acting and doing the part. They would give you direction, they would give you feedback, they would pick your take, they would edit it for you, all these things. So to me, I felt an ease in that process because it was collaborative and creative. It's kind of like when we do actually get to like work on set or work for a job and you get to take direction and there's that energy that's collaborating together. I find that so much easier than now, like we're in that vacuum of like doing self tapes, doing our own self-directed auditions. And like you said, you're like, am I even doing this right or well? Like there's so much more opportunity for self-judgment or criticism because it's just you. It's you versus you. And then like you said, we almost sometimes I feel like DPN will do a good job of like if things need to be adjusted, they'll tell you. But then sometimes when you don't hear things for a long time, you're like, just checking in, like, am I good at this still?
Am I
Like,
totally
what is
crazy?
happening?
Yeah, like
Am I crazier? Yeah. I feel like you said we get much better at doing the work and hustling without validation or affirmation. 'Cause it's kind of like part of the job. But at the same time, there's those moments where I'm like, I should check in. Like, cause me to me, I'm like, okay, like we're here, we're rocking it out. But like, I don't know, how was that adjustment for you? Not to like totally tangent us off.
You're taking me back. I miss those days so much, and I do feel like, wow, we were so freaking lucky to have that experience at all, because I don't know that people will have that experience ever again, like, really, which is crazy, but it was a beautiful thing, and DPN is so I love DPN so much. I love all the agents there, and the energy is good. But yeah, luckily did already have experience. So because I started doing audiobooks even before I started doing
Okay.
commercials and other VO stuff. So I already had that initiation into the solitude of being a voiceover actor and recording myself. And I already had a little experience there. So it was an easier adjustment for me. It was more just that I missed the community, and it went from that aspect of being a bit more social to more back like, no, we're just on our own doing this. And yeah, when because I listened to your podcast and I heard you talking about it with somebody else, and I was like, wow, I honestly am just feeling immense gratitude for that time and that experience, because it's true. Like now, yeah, we have to make all the choices. We direct it, we send it off, we record it, we do all of that, all those aspects of it. So I feel like the audiobooks, which we can just say a little on, which is that's also a beautiful community and an area where there's a lot of work and a lot of support. And I feel like the voiceover communities are also just very welcoming and great. But audiobooks has been a wonderful world. So if people do want to get in, I always encourage people, honestly, if they are interested in voiceover, to get into doing narrating and audiobooks, because I think that's even how DPN signed me back when they did, because of all the experience that I'd had already recording. It's like if you want to get your 10,000 hours in audiobooks will definitely get you there quickly.
Well, and I'm so curious, Taylor, because like you said, even when we first met at DPN, like you are an audiobook queen. Like I was looking at your website and I think you've done over 140 audiobooks. It's possibly even higher at this point. I get asked all the time from other people if they're thinking about voiceover or they're curious, like audiobook seems to be something I think people consume a lot of audiobooks. And so it feels like a very exciting thing. And they'll ask me, like, how do I get started? And I'm like, I don't know, because that's a different section of the voiceover industry. So if someone came to you and said, like, I want to get into audiobooks, what should they do? What should they focus on to start that process?
So I actually have a whole email drafted that I have created for people who are interested in getting into audiobooks that I've sent to people. So anyone out there who wants to email me, you're more than welcome to. My email is taylormeskimen@gmail.com.
Easy peasy. I'm gonna bug you for that too, because I'm curious myself. I've never explored it. I was like, yeah, send it to me too. I'll take it. Why not?
The thing that's great about it too is it's such a welcoming community, and the people are always seeking new voices. There's tons of work. It's very rare to feel like, this is why I share about it too, because I feel like it's so rare in the world that people are not in extreme competition for jobs. And that idea that you talked about, scarcity, feeling that way about things is so uncomfortable, and it's not a nice feeling. Like I would never want to like take a job from you. You know what I mean? Or like from somebody else. There's so much work in the audiobook industry because there are so many books that need to be recorded. There's books being re-recorded. There's new books being written all the time. Think about all the books over time have to be recorded. It's not a very large group of people who do it in comparison to the world. It's like tiny, and it is hard work. It's tedious work. And, you spend a lot of time alone, and there's the pros and cons, but it's such a welcoming community and there's so much work available there. So it's like, I always feel very inclined to share about it and encourage my voiceover friends, anyone who's like actually interested in voiceover, to try it out, because I love that I don't have to feel like scarce about it or worried that someone else is going to take my job, because it's not like that. There's so much work available. It's just a nice feeling to have about a career.
For sure. I think especially, what's so funny about that, Taylor, and thank you for sharing, because I think I'm with you. To me, it's like the high tide lifts all ships. Like that's how I felt even at DPN. It was like, I think that was why it was such a great energy exchange when we were all there together. Like you said, there was like we're getting to chit chat in the hallway about life and about this and share ideas. And it's like, okay, go into audition. And there wasn't even space to be like, oh, we're competition. Like that was not there. Like that didn't exist. And I feel like the cool part about, I guess, working from home and on our own is like you can't see the competition because you're literally by yourself, which is great. But I feel like if I listen to some other podcasts about voiceover, about different things, there's been an amplified message of the fact that it has just gotten more competitive over the last couple of years, and which is kind of unhelpful because you're like, well, I can't do anything about it. And I do agree totally that from everything in acting, writing, anything in the industry, I've found the voiceover and industry to be super welcoming and a little bit more, I don't know, even like the people that I've met, like people willing to share ideas and people willing to like encourage and support, because there has been a little bit of that lack of competition. But this sounds like that times 20 with the audiobook world, which is nice. That's nice to even hear, because I'm like, wow, there's so much work and there's not that many people doing it.
But it's like exactly what you said. I think it's not helpful if you're, hearing, oh, there's no work happening. No one's filming. No one's hiring. There's this many people in LA trying to be an actor. The competition is getting worse and worse. The market's oversaturated, blah, blah, blah. If that information doesn't help somebody to progress, it's kind of useless information. And it's actually just negativity. And it doesn't have to be true. It's not necessarily true because people are working every day. People are booking jobs every single day. Somebody's booking the job. So I look at it and I go, well, who's going to book the job? Is it going to be the person who's worried that they're probably not going to book the job because there's too many people doing it and my chances are so low. I don't even know I'm trying to do this. Like, that person's probably not going to book the job if they're operating off of that information that their chances are 1%. So I think it's like truth is, it's not necessarily truth, it's an opinion, and differentiating what is an opinion and also taking whatever you believe to be true. It's like having integrity in your own goals and dreams. And I think it's like a practice. Like, I'll fall into those ideas, like I believe it, and then that's my own thing if I'm going to believe it, but I don't have to believe it. It's not necessarily a fact. People are working every day, so I'd like to be one of those one of those people.
And like you said, Taylor, I feel like, again, when I think back to certain times when I've booked or was like in a really good season of booking, I was like, oh yeah, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I hope it's me. Like, that didn't exist during those periods of time. So I wasn't bringing that into the auditions. But there's something so poignant about what you said of like, we sometimes trust like the first thought that comes up. And it's like that first thought must be true. And it's like, I think there's the resiliency when you've been in the game for a while. Like, we all have those dips where you're like, I'm not feeling great. And I think we have more tools in our toolbox to like challenge that first thought, like you said, and be like, maybe this isn't a fact. Maybe it's a feeling. Okay, let's challenge it. Like, what can we replace it with instead? And I feel for so many of the people who started pursuing this career professionally more like around COVID and this being their first experience, because there is a little bit more solitude. And I think you have to work harder to find your community, where we, I think, have some of that foundational, like we, my God, like I remember back when like self-tapes weren't even a thing. Like, we were driving all over Los Angeles, going into all these, different casting offices. And then it was kind of like a mixture of self-tapes and in-person auditions. And then now it's like, that's the main thing that we're doing. Same thing for voiceover. And, some of the people that I've met who started like 2019, 2020, and have had much more solitude in their process, I've seen, and it breaks my heart, like sometimes them fall more into the, like, it won't be me. And I had a conversation recently with someone just to like really just have a heart to heart. And I was like, this sounds maybe harsh, but I was like, if you truly don't think it can be you, do you really want to do this anymore? Like, what's the point? Because you're still showing up, you're still putting your blood, sweat, and tears and your heart into everything that you're doing. Like, why are you torturing yourself? You know what I mean? They feel like they've started their career in the void a little bit more, where I think we've been like, okay, we had that touch of like magic and like glitter before.
We know what we're going after. Totally.
So we kind of, I feel like having that experience, when I need to be pulled out of it, I can kind of go back to those touch points and be like, okay, how can I, with the resources I have right now, like feel that like glitter from like the past again, like the golden glitter of like old DPN, or like, what do I need to do to reconnect to community to like pull me out of this right now? And I feel like since they haven't seen some of it the way we used to, it's like, is it even there? Does it exist? And it's like, because that's not helpful. Like, what do you need to do then to change the neural pathway to be like, it can be me?
Yeah. See, that's why I think, though, we really have to love what we do, because none of this stuff is easy. And honestly, it wouldn't be as enjoyable if it was too easy. So, we like challenges and overcoming the challenges. But I so agree. Yeah, it's interesting. But okay, so I'll go back to finishing
I was just going to say,
911.
we're like vibing hard. I'm like, okay, wait, let's go back to, you know what? It's actually a great segue, because you started it being like, I almost like recommitted to the game. I recommitted to, okay, I'm going to do the hustle. Like, I'm in the game.
Yeah. So I redecided, yes, this is what I want to do. And then I got a call from my agent like shortly after, like a couple days. And she was like, hey, are you and your mom in town during this date to this date? And I actually had a trip scheduled out of town.
Classic. Of
Classic.
course you did.
I mean, that's the best way to book a job, is schedule a trip
Yep.
out of town. So I was like, well, yeah, like, okay, I can be available if we book it, then sure, let me know. But I've gotten calls like this before. I've gotten calls checking my availability on things. And sometimes those things, most of the time, nothing happens with those things, especially in the theatrical world, from my experience. Like, I've had some really close things over the years that just never panned out. So I'm like, yeah, let me know and I'll change my trip if we book it. So I talked to my mom. We're like, okay, fine, we'll see what happens. I kind of like let it go. And then about a week later, our agents called and we're like, okay, you guys got it officially. And then that was very exciting also because it was with my mom. It was like very sweet. It was just like, I actually have worked a lot with my dad on things, and I have worked with my mom on things, but not as much. So it was like a really nice thing. We play the same character on the show, and I'm the younger version of her character. And I don't know if you've seen 911, but it's like pretty wild, like medical emergencies. And she had amazing prosthetics, makeup, incredible, absolutely horrifyingly gory and just decomposing. And anyways, it was crazy. And then we shot about a month later. This was in the summer, a couple months ago. I had the best time, honestly. The people on that set are incredible. I felt like it was a very unique situation because I was basically shooting a short film for 2 days because it was this whole flashback sequence. And I got to play so many different emotions because it was playing out the life of this character and her growth, her high points in life. And then it's a complete tragedy. Her whole life falls apart and she kind of loses everything. So it went from this like really happy, beautiful to like complete crumbling. And it was 2 days of filming. I had my own crew. So I was like the star of the show.
So cool. Everything about this just sounds like what a great first TV
I
experience.
could not have asked for anything better. Like, really, it was honestly so much fun. Like, I still like feel all the emotions I felt. I was like soaking it up, like just really experiencing the whole thing. And like I had all these cool outfits and hair changes because there's like many setups, and it was 90s theme for my character. So I had all these like fun, great throwback outfits and hairstyles. And I got to work with Jen Lynch, this amazing director. She's David Lynch's daughter, which was also really cool. And she was amazing. And everyone was just so, so nice. A lot of stuff happened in that episode. It's a pretty wild, wild show.
That show, no, whenever you think it's truly like what could be the craziest things that are happening that cause like a medical disaster
Yeah,
is like that show.
totally.
Very creative. I'm always like,
Yeah.
wow, they are like, how do people even think about it? It's
I
like
don't know how they come up
insane.
with all the ideas. It's incredible. Yeah. But watching it was very cool. Yeah, very exciting. And I think it turned out really beautifully and they did a great job.
I'm so happy for you. What a cool, and again, I think like even the whole way that you've described that process, there needs to be, I feel like the openness of the artist. Like if again, how you just described even like getting the call and you're like, I have a trip, but like, okay, I'll figure it out. Like just being flexible and open to possibility coming in. And then that's when there's like room for it to happen.
Completely. And also, I think what was really great about the experience as well was that, it's been a dream of mine to do that. And sometimes I guess I was like having this thought process of sometimes I'll do something that I've always wanted to do. And I'm like, yeah, that was cool. Like, it was all right. Sure. But it lived up to my hype on it. And I had such a good time doing it. And I did a really good job. And I think it was for my own validation of myself. I proved to myself that I actually could do it. I could cry in front of 60 people surrounding me with cameras in my face. And this is what an actor has to be able to do. And it's not like I haven't been on sets before. I've been on lots of sets, but where it's really was all about me in those moments and proving to myself that I just could do it. And I actually know what I'm doing as an actor. Sometimes you need to have the experience to really validate that in myself, I guess, where I was like, oh, yeah, I'm so comfortable here. I know exactly what I'm doing and I can do this all the time. And I enjoy doing it. I hadn't ever been given quite that opportunity, I guess. I mean, maybe in smaller scenarios where because I've done a lot of like indie filmmaking and shorts and things like that. But those crews are so much smaller. It's a different experience and the pressure isn't there. And so it was like, oh, I can do this under pressure. I can deliver. And I think that was really, really nice. And since then, I've had great auditions. I feel like it's definitely going to create more stuff for me. And also, then on top of that, I'm continuing all the things I think that led to that happening in the first place, which is creating my own projects. Like I just released this short film that I made with friends in the 24-hour thing, which is now on YouTube. It's called The Role. It's a mockumentary comedy.
I'll put it all in the show notes. So, but I love a good mockumentary. Those are like some of my favorite types of stories. They're the best.
Yeah. And then I have another short that is hitting festivals now, which is like this very artistic avant-garde kind of, it's really different, but I'm so proud of it. And I made that with another friend of mine who's a writer, director, amazing artist, Chris Merrill. And I've done a few projects with him. Him and I have partnered up creating. So we're like in talks about actually creating a music video for me now for our next project. So that'll be coming out soon too. Yeah, lots of creating.
Lots of creating. I think this is like connecting back to an earlier point in the conversation, Taylor, about you had said almost like part of your goal for this year was like the things that were on your list, like actualizing them, making them happen. And like, what do I need to do to like be able to cross it off the list? And you said kind of to the point of, I never regret when I do it, even if it's like the result's not what I thought it was going to be. I regret when I don't. I regret when I'm like, oh, dang, I want to do this thing, but I haven't for whatever reason. And so much of what you just said is the true power of creation, of making something from nothing and just being so in the movement of giving yourself the opportunity to like be tested and to try different things. And I feel like that's what makes you ready for then when the opportunities do come. Cause I think so much of what you described, and I love in life when the thing we romanticize, it actually happens that way. Cause we know it's rare. Sometimes you're like, oh, that big thing that I wanted to cross off the list and I did. And you're like, it didn't feel the way I thought it was going to feel. But I think so much of what you just said energetically, because have been in so much like creative movement and creating your own momentum, because you're actually creating projects, you're not waiting, made that experience, I think, probably feel so much more validating. Because like you said, now I'm sure even when you're going to, do different auditions, having the experience that you had on set and being like, I know what it feels like. I know what I'm capable of in that type of, because yeah, TV, like you said, versus film. I've done a very limited amount of TV, but it is wild compared to like the indie film world. Like you said, the crews are huge. It's fast paced. It is
Totally.
insane.
Yeah, it's like cry in 2 minutes. Like, let's go. We're shooting now. Where's the tears?
And then we're flipping angles and
Yeah.
like everything is fast, which I actually think that for me, I love the pressure of it because you can't almost think about anything else. Like you said, it's almost like until you know you could do it, you're like, am I going to be able to do this? I hope so. I don't know because I haven't done it before. Like, again, I've acted before, but not in that type of environment. Like, there's something so unique to being on set. And then, like you said, now that I'm sure it's the way you're approaching different auditions, just having that experience and being like, okay, I can kind of maybe picture what this would look like if I booked it. I feel like it just gives a different level of, yeah, just validation for
Confidence.
yourself.
Yes, totally.
I'm so curious too. You do animation, you do narration, and you do commercial VO. You just did Five Nights at Freddy's, which is a video game. How does your process differ when you're working in the different sectors of VO? Like, what is different if you're working on an audiobook versus working on a video game versus a commercial, or like the auditioning process? What changes for you?
I guess, audiobooks are its own thing. I feel like I've established my connections in that industry, and I've nurtured those connections, and because it all is all over email and it's all electronic, really, it's very rare that we have in person, but anytime that there are in-person things, I try to be present there because I think like any of these art forms, connection is what ultimately gives us the best opportunities because people want to work with people they like and people they know. And of course, people that are talented, I know it's like when I know somebody and I like them, I will try to incorporate them in my life. And that's, I think, goes for any business. So that one, I get auditions, I will work on them, do them. In terms of comparing that to animation or other stuff, I think that it's just a different style of performance. And I wouldn't say that I've cracked the animation world quite yet. I would love to do more animation. And I actually just made a whole Instagram video making an animation reel, which I'm gonna release the reel next because that's now completed and I'll be sending that to DPN.
Yay, I'll send the good vibes. I'll send the
Yes,
good
thank
vibes.
you. But I would love to I've done some animation. I've been on this series Storybots, which is on Netflix, but that was honestly through I know the creators of the show. So that's a connection thing. It's not necessarily an audition thing. The process of recording is similar, and it's similar to acting too. I feel like I just become a character, and if you know how to use a microphone, the tech you've had experience and you're not going to create a bunch of plosive sounds, or you can have an awareness of using a microphone. That's it. And mix that with acting and you give it your best shot and make a choice and make a bold choice and try to stand out, but not too much.
Talking to your dad, we talked a lot about choice and just like making a choice and sticking with it and kind of being bold. And I think that's something I've learned in a lot of the classes I've taken for voiceover of like, you need to stand out because the way that it's gotten, sometimes they're listening to the first like 30 seconds of it. So, what can you do to make a choice, but make it specific? Make it like a lived in choice. You stand out because the character you constructed or the scenario you constructed is specific and like specific to you and your strengths, not for the sake of standing out, but also stand out.
It's really interesting. And when I've booked jobs before commercials and stuff, I actually have asked the people, why did you choose me?
So smart, Taylor. That's so smart.
But what's crazy is like they don't really have a finite answer most of the times that I've asked. They're just like, we just liked your vibe. Like, we like the way you sound. But then I think what that really makes me think of is every artist is valuable because they are who they are. And I think that I have really, like earlier in my life, I struggled with trying to be something that I thought that people wanted me to be, or a way that oh, this is how they want people to do it, or this is how they want me to sound, and it's impossible to try to please other people. And there's not really a strong ground for that because everyone has a different opinion. So, I could like study what you like and try to, do a performance that you specifically are going to like, but it's only going to be for you. It doesn't mean the next person that I'm performing for, it doesn't mean they're going to like it. So I think like that's like a shaky ground to live on. And I found confidence by deciding what I think is the right choice and this is what I bring as Taylor. This is my choice. This is my style. And like, I feel like I could add this to your project or your product or whatever it is. And if you like that, then great, we can work together. Like, obviously, I'm not saying these things, but that's like the idea behind it. We all have a uniqueness and, like, your voice is your voice and mine is mine, and you bring something different than I bring, and people are going to connect with different things just because they are, and it's hard to even put into words.
Totally. There's like something intangible about it. Like you said, like if some of the people they can't even, it's not like they were like, oh, this one thing that you did. It was like the whole vibe and the energy. And you're making me think, Taylor, there's one of my good friends is also with DPN, my friend Corinne Evans. And so she got signed by them a couple years after I did. And so this is probably about a year ago. We both were put on a veil for a commercial for a Ford Mach-E, like the new Mach-E. And so Vince, called both of us, and then we obviously were texting each other like, "Oh my God." And she ended up booking it, which was super cool. And we shared our auditions with one another. Cause it's like, when do you ever get that opportunity? She's like, "Do you mind sharing yours?" I'm like, "Yes, like let's share yours too." It was insane how different our auditions were. Like, because we obviously there's certain tonal qualities of our voice that are kind of similar-ish, but like her read and my read was like could not have been more different. And then here were the two that they were deciding between. And so it was wild. And so for her and I, it was kind of cool because it was like truly whatever direction they go, like, and the fact that these are even the two that they're deciding between, it was just an interesting peek behind the process to just be like, there's so much going on behind the scenes. So much of it is like, yeah, that intangible thing. Like why they picked her versus me is like, we could not have been more different despite having like some tonal qualities that were the same.
Right. Wow, what a valuable experience.
It's crazy. Blew my mind. Honestly, blew my
That's
mind.
so smart. And it's crazy because I think I have learned that also in other watching auditions or hearing auditions is such a valuable thing. And then it's true, it can come down to maybe like five people love one person, but then the guy at the top who really ultimately makes the decision is like, no, the other person, done. We don't know what's going on back there, which is also why not to take it personally when we don't get things. It's like, no, that person reminds me of my sister. That's it. That's the only reason the person didn't get the job. Or
To that point, I feel so grateful because knowing a little bit more about the casting process and one, how many people they are hearing and deciding between, and then knowing like, again, all these people are people who have a personal opinion and their own subjectivity. And usually there's 20 of them trying to make a decision on one person. Every time I book a job or like even get on a veil, I tell my husband, I'm like, it is truly a miracle because there's so much that has to go in to that yes happening. And I think as I've gotten older, I was talking to Vince, one of our agents, a couple months ago, and he's like, yeah, there is part of it that is luck. There's three people maybe at the end, and the fact that it goes your way is like at that point is so divine intervention, luck, because yeah, they are making these decisions that I was just on a campaign for 2.5 years with Comcast Xfinity. It just ended the beginning of September, which, was hard. I had to grieve it a little bit because I've never worked with a company that long. Like, I think the most it had probably been was like 6 months, which in the voiceover world is like amazing to have that type of rapport and relationship. Like when I got put on a veil initially, I needed endurance. Like, I had never worked the way that I had, where you were doing sometimes like, from the audiobook world that like, you need endurance for that. I think most commercial voiceover sessions are pretty quick. Like you might do a lot of coverage and a lot of copy in that session, but like sometimes then you're waiting between when they're editing and getting approval.
like maybe 2 hours, but you're 4 hours, but not, yeah.
Totally. But you're not like working, I guess, the whole time. You're kind of just trying to like stay in the zone. And so anyways, I thought, him and I talked about it like crazy because I was like, it was that quick of a decision going my way versus someone else's way. And like, that's so out of our control. And you can be nothing but grateful when that happens because you're like, why they chose me? I have no idea why, but like,
Pulling a needle out of a haystack, like they just found, yeah, I agree. I'm always like, well done. Like we're even getting auditions. It's like you're in the game. You're in the game. Then after that, if you get avails, if you book, it's such a combination of factors. And I was thinking about that a lot recently of like actually just the naiveness that I had when I was first starting out and how I think like a lot of luck can come from that naiveness because like I haven't lost enough yet to be worried about losing or like beaten down by life, and trying to return as much as possible to that feeling of playing and like learning. And I have to say, actually, listening to your podcast, like really inspired me hearing you talk to, yeah, really. Cause I was like, Yeah, like, remember that feeling of when you're first starting out in a career and there's so much to learn about it still, and not knowing everything about something, I think leaves the door open to a lot of hope that then it's like, okay, well, if now I've been in the business for years and years and I haven't gotten things, or I've even recorded things, done jobs, got replaced, or like been on a veil, got let go, like anything you can think of. And the losses feel a lot louder than the wins and the successes that I've had, but that it's better to focus my attention on the possibilities of success again. And also lets, I think, those freer choices, those bolder choices come out because I'm not afraid of losing, because it's like recreating the newness for the love of the art again. So that's the zone I'm in now. I'm like, okay,
I could literally talk to you forever. This has been so much fun. I feel like I'm on cloud nine. I'm going to do the last couple like little rapid fire questions, but to what you just said that I think is genius. And I love sport documentaries. I love sports in general. And I think there's so many weird parallels actually between when you are professionally pursuing the creative and industry. There's so many parallels to like us as artists, as athletes. And I just read a book called Open by Andre Agassi, who was a tennis player. And then I heard something he echoed in a couple different sports documentaries, and you just touched on it, was that we can't play to not lose. We have to play the game like we're trying to win, or we can win. And he said that like in all of his matches, he would have this moment where he's like, I'm trying to not lose right now. I'm not believing that I could win. I'm just trying to not lose. And he's like, so that was like such a big part of his mental game, is like, what does playing to not lose look like versus playing to like I could possibly win? What changes my game if I'm playing like I could possibly win? And I feel like everything you just said accompanied that. Like, I'm playing with the possibility that I could win. I'm not playing like I hope I don't lose.
totally. It's a different approach. That book sounds amazing. I should read that.
So good. I saw it on Instagram, someone posted it, and I again love sports, so
I
I
love
always
sports too. I don't watch a lot of sports, to be honest, but I love the mentality of sports. I love hearing the behind the scenes. I respect athletes a lot. And I love Andre Agassi. He's a great tennis player.
yes. Like no, he's phenomenal and that in his book, he's a great writer. Like I think that was one of the best sports memoirs that I've ever read. You should read it. I highly recommend it. I think about it often because of the way that he just told his story, and like you felt like you were there in the room with him as he was like detailing where his mindset was at and all these things he was going through. And so everything you just said really like brought me right back to what he shared. So yeah, last couple questions that are rapid fire ish. The podcast is titled Get Messy. What's the messiest thing about you?
The messiest thing about me. I mean, I guess probably like that I do have so many interests spread across so many different fields of the arts. And I'm not like the most organized person. I feel like I would love to be, and I admire people who are organized, and I try to be, but I'm really not, and it does not come naturally to me. So that's probably the messiest thing. So it's balancing. I'll get really dispersed sometimes doing one thing and then jumping into another thing, and like I'm like, "Oh my god," and then all of a sudden time has gone by and I'm like, "Oh wait, oh I forgot to do that other thing." That's a bit messy, I guess.
For sure, I'll take it. So much of the process is messy, or like you said, the switching of gears. And I feel like in our industry, that's constant. You can wake up thinking you know what your day is going to look like, and then it's like, just kidding. And you're like, okay, I'm flying by the seat of my pants.
Anytime I try to make a schedule, it just goes right out the window. But I almost recognized it as a successful thing because it's almost like maybe that's too part of my answer is I try to like put in some sort of order or organization in an area, and then it kind of explodes and like more stuff comes in. I have to change everything. And I think that's what I've had to learn over the years is adapting to that change and adapting to the things that come in because I mean, I'm an emotional person, I'm an artist, and sometimes all that can feel really overwhelming. but recognizing it as like, oh, actually, maybe I had a hand in that, because when we make decisions, things happen. And sometimes we make a decision over here and something happens over here. There's so many different parts of life. It's all connected to one another. You know, we never know what's going to result from a decision that we make. Something else is going to come up.
And I think to your point, Taylor, that reminds me a lot of like some of what your dad and I talked about is like we have the ability to always make a choice or make a decision. So like we need to utilize it. Like when we utilize it, even if the result is so not what we thought it was going to be, it usually creates that like energetic push and pull with other things.
Yeah.
You have so much fun stuff going on right now. What are you most excited in this moment right now, personally and professionally?
I'm excited personally for some music projects that I have going on. It's a hobby, really, but I love music and I love writing music, and I'm learning guitar right now, which has been a humbling experience as well. Learning something new that I kind of had this realization like, oh, wait, I was always like, I wish I learned guitar. I wish I learned how to play an instrument. And I was like, I still can. Not too late. Just start practicing, Taylor. So I've been doing that and writing new songs, and I'm going to be doing a music video for this one song. And I'm very excited about that, because also I think that's incorporating my love for music and my love for acting and storytelling. And this song is very story based. So I think that's going to be really fun. And then also this feature film that I'm writing with my best friend, Alexandra Du Parc. And hopefully I'll be able to share more stuff on that soon in the next couple months. We're trying to have it done, the first draft, by January, and do a reading of it. And it's a really cool story. And it's great to just be working on something in the film industry that is bigger than anything else that I've ever contributed to it. I love feeling like more in control, I guess, and more like I'm bringing more value to the industry. As an actor, really, I've noticed it's really nice when I'm like, oh, I could reach out to other actors and involve them in this project. Like I could help other people because we're creating this, instead of like just needing a part. The flow is different. And I think I really prefer that. It's really nice. It's a nice idea. So I'm excited for that too.
I'm so excited, Taylor. And I love that you share. Thank you, Jim Meskimen, for teaching us how to share. You share a lot of this on your social media. So I'm going to put everything in the show notes, but where can people follow along with all the fun things that you have going on?
My Instagram is pretty active. It's at tmex, Tmex. I also throw stuff on YouTube. I have a website, taylormeskimen.com. I'm trying to do TikTok, you know, but
I know it's hard. I've just started putting some of the podcast stuff, and it's so funny. Like, I think we're close to the same age, and I'm like, there's something about my brain that like I want to get it, but it's hard. Yeah, Instagram makes sense for like I think our generation.
I love Instagram. I have to say, it's a great creative outlet. So I really post a lot of stuff on there. I also just recently got a Substack, but I need to start putting some writing and stuff on there. There's so many ways to be an artist and share right now, which I think is such a beautiful thing about this time, is like anyone can do it and there's nothing stopping us but ourselves. And so we can get out of our own way and just create and do the things, like just do the things. That's like my theme this year.
Taylor, you are such a gem. I could literally talk to you all day. I've had so much fun. Thank you so much
It's
for
been
coming on
so
the
fun.
pod.
Thank you, Maddie.
So fun. Thanks, Taylor. You're the real hero if you've made it this far. Thanks so much for hanging out today, and check out the show notes for any resources or cool info mentioned in today's episode, or places to follow along if you want to hang out some more. I'm rooting for you today and always. Stay messy.